Former President Donald Trump has boosted the nation's attention clearly as he was found guilty on those 34 charges. People have been questioning what this means for his future, his presidency, his popularity, and whether or not he will be imprisoned. All good questions. If they throw him in jail, though, they could bust the bank in a good way. Joining me now to discuss all of this is former prosecutor and Trump-endorsed candidate for Congress in Arizona's 8th Congressional District, Abe Hamadeh. Abe, nice to see you again.
You too, Steve.
Listen, in the 24 hours after the verdict, it was almost $55 million that rolled through the door. I saw an article here earlier today that by the following day it was at $71 million. I can't find an updated figure, but I have no reason to believe he didn't break $80 million or $90 million. And by the way, Abe, that's for the small donors. Right. Apparently the big donors are rolling in and getting ready to dump truckloads of cash in too. And so in a single day, here's what the Democrats accomplished. They accomplished helping Donald Trump to erase the entire financial gap between the Trump campaign and the Biden campaign in one day. Nicely done, guys. Throw him in jail. Maybe we can double the output. What do you say?
Seems like justice is finding another way outside the courtroom, Steve. And, you know, here we're looking at what the Joe Biden campaign did when these indictments first started happening in March of 2023, when Alvin Bragg first announced that indictment. You know, they thought this was their way to take Trump out, whether in a primary, whether through the general election, to exhaust all of his resources. But the American people are never abandoning President Trump because he's never abandoned America. He is fighting this corruption. He's exposing this system. And it's a real travesty. You know, listening to your monologue earlier, Steve, you know, you hit the nail right on the head. This is an attack on all of us. And as a former prosecutor, when I'm looking at the rule of law just being destroyed right in front of our eyes, you know, it's really disheartening for somebody who took that oath of office to defend our Constitution in the military and as a prosecutor to uphold the laws. So, you know, President Trump, this is the Judge Merchan. I don't know what the sentencing is going to come down to, but clearly I think you're exactly right. They're not going to show us any mercy. And I think this is going to be a mandate, hopefully, when President Trump is able to take back the White House this November, that we are going to do to them what they did to us. That's the only way out of this mess with this Marxist communist revolution that's occurring in our country.
You know, Abe, I could not possibly agree with you more. We need to blunt this socialist wave or whatever this is. We just saw Mexico, you know, elect another far left socialist candidate, which means our southern border is going to remain exactly as it is, wide open under the control of the cartels. Mexico will do us no favors, it seems to me. But in response to all this, we're hearing that tomorrow Joe Biden is going to sign an executive order that will turn around almost all of the illegals coming across the border. What are we, five and a half months away from the election? Finally, he's decided to stop the invasion at the southern border. You're there in a border state. Do people take this seriously?
No, and that whole, you know, border plan that they try to pass with the Senate, where it was billions of dollars, where we know is never going to secure our border. And this whole time, Biden has been saying that, you know, he can't do anything. His hands are tied. But now suddenly he's going to sign this executive order that's going to shut down our border if there's more than 4,000 illegal crossers a week. You know, the American people aren't buying it. You know, they here in Arizona, we see the real effects of the border crisis. It's not just the number of illegal immigrants, you know, and taking all the resources, but we've actually had a Chilean South American gang that has been burglarizing residential communities. So they're terrorizing so many of these communities. In New York, you see them attacking police officers. And this is where President Trump is really, his 2016 numbers are going to expand, because you see Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, they're waking up to the realities of the Democratic Party and Joe Biden have failed them intentionally. And they're seeing it in real time because it's in their backyard. But President Biden, I think it's too little too late. The American people know that this crisis was caused by this administration, and 10 million illegal immigrants at least have crossed our southern border. It's not sustainable. That's bigger than the state of Arizona population wise. So, you know, and by the way, this is all a ruse. If Biden somehow, God forbid, were to win the White House again, they're going to open it right back up, because that's the only way these Democrats can maintain power, because they've lost the American people.
Let's talk about that for a moment here. It's not just about winning the White House. It's maintaining control in Congress, which is why you're running for Congress. It's winning the United States Senate, also incredibly important as we move forward. Who is in the race here in the 8th Congressional District? Arizona's seats are critically important, as all seats are across this country. Who are you facing?
Well, I'm facing 4 other opponents. One of them we ran together. We were former friends, Blake Masters. But President Trump and Kari Lake have both endorsed me because, they've seen me take on the corruption here in Arizona, Steve. In the last election, we had our race decided by 280 votes out of 2.5 million when I was running for attorney general, and we've been fighting it in the courts. And, saving America is going to take guts. It's going to take courage. It's not just policy solutions. It's the ability to actually, say what needs to be said and do what needs to be done. So President Trump's going to need backup in Congress, and I'm excited that Kari Lake and I are going to be joining him in Washington, D.C. So, President Trump needs all of his allies. Debbie Lesko, she's a Republican congresswoman, but she's announced her retirement. So it's an open Republican seat.
Okay. Fair enough. So if you win the primary, you're on your way to Washington to roll up your sleeves and clean up this mess. And boy, you've got a lot of mess to clean up, don't you?
Yeah, but as I told President Trump, if I win and he loses, our country's done. So every single day after the primary, I'm going to make sure we're going to win him Arizona so he can recapture the presidency, because I can't go in there alone.
Let me ask you something about that. In the state house, the state Republicans there did get rid of that 1864 law that was potentially going to be problematic as a driver for leftist voters come November. That has been taken out of the mix now. Is that, in your estimation, a smart political move for the Republicans in Arizona?
Absolutely, because that issue has been winning in Ohio and Kansas. But unfortunately, I believe that there's going to be a ballot measure here in Arizona that's going to pretty much allow abortion all the way till birth. And we're dealing with such a moral, rotten society right now, sadly, where it's probably going to pass. And so we have to be strategic in the fights we're facing right now. And I agree with President Trump. Roe v. Wade, we campaigned to get rid of it at the federal level. Now it belongs to the states. It's going to take us time to win the hearts and minds of the American people, but we're on our way.
Well, and here's the question for you, and I got one more here because I saw the same thing happen here in my state of Michigan. Passed a law by voters that allows abortion up to the moment of birth. It's a horrendous law, but it drives left-wing Democrat voters to the polls, and it can be very problematic for Republicans. Can you win these seats in Arizona and still lose on that ballot measure? That's the real question. Can you overcome the turnout of the Democrats on an issue like that on a ballot measure?
Absolutely, because President Trump's on the ballot. You announced that he's raised over $80 million on small dollars. If you look, when Roe v. Wade was overturned back in 2022, the Democrats' best days after, they raised $20 million. So although I do believe the abortion amendment is most likely going to pass, unfortunately, I think Kari Lake, myself, and President Trump have a very good shot. If you're looking at the polls, these races, it's all by the margins. And I think they're very worried with these third-party candidates. You saw President Trump basically decimate the Libertarian Party by going and speaking to their convention. I think he won a lot of people over.
Which was brilliant, by the way.
Right. And now you have the Green Party on the ballot all across the country. So, these races are going to be tight, but I believe it's going to be too big to rig. And so I think we have a very, very good shot at recapturing the Senate and the presidency here in Arizona.
Abe, good conversation. Big challenges facing America, whether it's the border, abortion, or the cost of living everywhere across this country. Wish you the best in this upcoming primary, Abe. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Steve.